Give everybody a quick warm welcome. This is the quarterly CHC Connected Home Council webinar meeting. My name is Marta Klopotowska and I am the Manager of Programs and Communications at CABA. I will be emceeing the slides today. And I'd like to mention that today's webinar meeting is being recorded and will be circulated for those who could not attend and those who are currently attending as well, along with the presentation slides. With that, I will pass it on to Greg, who will go over the agenda for today.
Thanks, Marta. I'm filling in for Charles Hugh from Southwire, who was unable to make it. So I'll go over the first of all, we'll talk about the agenda, a call to order, some welcomes, introductions, a little bit about the CHC, which will be done by Ken Wax, a long-standing member of CABA and then the chair of the CHC. A little bit of administrative work where we'll be approving the past minutes and doing a call for vice chairs, and then a call for those that would be interested in being a keynote at future CHC webinars and other activities. And then there will go a research update of our landmark research project that we're well on our way on. And then a little bit about our new CABA podcast that deals with both intelligent buildings and connected homes topics. And then we'll have a keynote presentation from Andy Spielman from Tuya Smart on how IoT is helping create a more sustainable world. So that'll be about a 30-minute presentation, maybe 40 minutes. There'll be a time for do some Q&A there as well. Then we'll go over some new business and then some announcements, which is typically events that we just recently held in the space and those that are coming up, and then an adjournment. So with that, I'll pass it off to the chair of the Connected Home Council, Ken Wax.
Greg, thank you very much. And it's a pleasure to be introduced and to speak to the Connected Home Council. We play an important role in CABA in examining the trends and technologies in the connected home and apprising our members of activities that could be relevant to their business. The Connected Home Council was established in 2004. The council initiates and reviews projects that relate to the connected home and multiple dwelling unit technologies and applications. The council also examines industry opportunities that can accelerate the adoption of new technologies, consumer electronics, and broadband services within the growing connected home market. CHC webinars and selected research topics explore industry shaping trends and forces and the use of technology to make connected homes more flexible, affordable, and human-centric. We have some formalities to process right now. Those of you who are regular attendees should have received the minutes from the past meeting. They are posted, as you can see, at the CABA website /CHC. Our last meeting was November 29th, 2023. For those of you that have had a chance to look at the minutes, I would like to know if there are any issues with it. Otherwise, if the meeting notes are acceptable, I'd like if someone could please make a motion to approve the minutes.
Chris Larry, I approve the minutes.
Thank you. And do we have someone who would second this motion so we can proceed?
This is Pete Horton, I second.
Thank you, Pete. So, are there any opposed? Wait 10 seconds. If not, I hear no one's opposed and the motion is passed. The minutes are approved. It's typical in the councils that CABA administers that we have multiple vice chairs. We are looking for additional vice chairs who would like to be involved with the Connected Home Council. Please contact Marta, Greg, or me, and if you have any questions you'd like to discuss, we're all available to answer your questions. The responsibilities are not overwhelming. It's not going to be a major part of your daily activities, but we would appreciate your offer to help as vice chair of the Connected Home Council. So please let us know if you'd like to volunteer. We are always on the lookout for webinar subjects and presenters. Our next meeting is in May of this committee. So we are looking for someone who would like to deliver a 20 to 30 minute keynote. And as Marta said, some of these presentations can be 30 minutes plus another 10 minutes or so for questions. So it's an opportunity to develop a theme and explain the relevance to the connected home. So please, probably the best person to contact is Marta, who will then ask Greg and me to either contact you or review the subject matter. And we have a pretty wide berth of subject matters that are within the domain of the Connected Home Council. I'd like to turn now to Greg to tell us about the major CABA research projects.
Thanks, Ken. So as many of you know, we do landmark research projects with the Connected Home Council once a year. So we do this also with our Intelligent Buildings Council on the large building side. This one took a little bit longer to start than some of the others. So it was a project from 2022, and we're still in the process of completing it now. We went into a formal RFP, and the topic was selected by our board of directors, and Harbor Research won the bid to conduct this research project. So this is around a $70,000 research project. And you see some of the funders on the screen here, and then they get access to the research for either $5,000, $10,000, or $15,000, depending on their funding level. And the full research only goes to those that fund it. There is a short executive summary. I think it'll probably be like just a one pager or with some infographics, and then probably a series of infographics that will be available to our members to go over some of the high level findings. But definitely the full research is available just to those that fund it. So this is an activity we're going to be continuing in 2023. Slight changes in this, in that we'll probably do a series of either 2 or 3 smaller projects and space them out throughout the year. And there'll be an RFP that'll go out to some of our research firm members shortly regarding this. So if you'd like to, there's still opportunity to become a funder of this project. If you're interested, contact myself at walker@caba.org, and we can work out the details of this particular research. But it's on smart home energy management systems, and it'll examine all aspects of from adoption perspectives, significant trends, inhibitors to growth, potential future opportunities from a business standpoint in the smart home energy management space. With that, we can go to the next slide. Marta can talk about our new podcast that we're doing in both large building and residential.
If I might make a comment, Greg, on the landmark research project. I just returned from Distributech, and followed by the Smart Energy Summit. Distributech was a large trade show in San Diego. The Smart Energy Summit was a conference on the business aspects of smart energy held in Austin, Texas. Both are very important topics in the connected home space that involve not just the traditional electric utilities, but a lot of opportunities for business by developers of products for use in homes and buildings. So it's an important topic, and I would encourage people who have an interest in business areas in this smart home and smart energy to consider joining this CABA project.
Thanks, Ken. Yeah, and it's definitely a hot button topic in the connected home space. It definitely lots of changes in the energy markets.
You know,
and renewed
ironically,
interest.
when people have asked me over the years, now I run a management consultancy with energy in homes and buildings is an important part of my business. I've made a comment that people really don't focus much on energy unless there's a rate shock. Well, guess what happened last year and this year? We've experienced a rate shock, and suddenly everyone's turning their head towards energy conservation. And we have an opportunity in our industry to show what we can do to help consumers manage their energy effectively. So you were going to talk about the podcast, Marta?
Yes, thank you, Ken. Thanks, Greg. Earlier this year, CABA started a podcast series on intelligent buildings and connected homes. And what was meant to be a quarterly episode released on Spotify and Apple Podcasts has now become monthly. We really want to take a moment to thank our members for the interest and support on each of these recordings. You know, just the traction that this has gained. So our most recent recording, which is titled Part 1 of Post-Pandemic Building Issues, Cybersecurity and Intelligent Amenities, an Overview, was hosted by James Carlini of Carlini and Associates and guest Isaiah Jones of Applied Integrated Technologies. Part 2 is scheduled to be released shortly on March 1st. And we're always looking for hosts and guests. If this is something that is interested to anyone on the call here today, you may contact me directly on the screen. There is my email address. You can also visit our website, caba.org /podcasts, and you can listen to our last few recordings to gain a sense of how we are recording the episodes and what sort of educational content is being put out there. And really anybody can join. We have a slew of guests and hosts that are available. And I guess with that, I will pass it on to Greg to introduce our keynote speaker for today.
Oh yeah, thanks, Marta. I'm taking over from Charles here. I think the topic of this presentation is on how IoT is helping create a more sustainable world. As many of you know, sort of smart grids affected by natural disasters have brought a renewed interest in public attention for grid resilience. There's been increasing instability in the oil and gas markets through the pandemic and the war in Eastern Europe, and creating a renewed interest in energy substitutes, and there's increased demand for electric vehicles and home charging stations and demand response pricing, and a very changing market in energy consumption and habits. So this presentation will look at how to assist consumers with these problems and to help organize the use and resources of energy and help them prepare for the future for this increasingly complex energy consumption environment. The speaker here is Andy Spielman. He serves as a Director of Business Development North America for Tuya Global, a global leading IoT provider. He has been in the consumer electronics space for over 20 years, leading both national sales teams and product development teams in developing cutting-edge technology products and delivering hundreds of products to the market. Over the last 6 years, he's focused on IoT in a deep knowledge of home energy management, both from a consumer and from a supplier standpoint. Prior to the IoT industry, he's held various positions at CPG companies across multiple categories. This combination of experience gives him a unique perspective on production, ideation, manufacturing to sales execution. With that, I'll pass it off to yourself, Andy, to give the presentation. I'll be sort of keeping time, and I think you have a few individuals from Tuya to assist in the Q&A. Thanks, Andy.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Greg. I appreciate that introduction. And thank you to CHC and CABA for giving me the opportunity here to speak today. And of course, thanks to all of you for spending your, well, it's my lunchtime, but spending your 20 minutes or so listening to me babble on into my computer. So my name is Danny Spielman. I'm the Director of Business Development for Tuya Smart here in North America. And there's kind of three things that I kind of hope to get across to you guys today. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I don't like to listen to myself talk any more than anybody else likes to hear me. But the first thing is sort of, who is Tuya, right? So Tuya is kind of one of the largest companies that nobody's heard of, right? Or most people have never heard of. And sort of what do we do and how do we do it, right? One of the purposes of us being on this call today is to try and find partners, right? Not customers, partners. And that's a big part of the topic that I want to talk about, which is sort of the second thing, is the importance of those aforementioned partnerships and what it looks like when everyone sort of comes together and is rowing in the same direction. Ken had mentioned the Smart Energy Conference in Austin. We attended that as well and spoke to everyone from consumers to utilities, to installers, dealers, you name it, right? There's a lot of moving parts within what we'll call, air fingers quote, energy. And it takes a village, right, to pull it off. And everybody sort of needs to know their position and their role. And that's kind of what I'm focused on here today, is what is our role and how can we partner with you guys? The third thing I wanted to share is sort of our roadmap and kind of how we got there. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that because it's going to be different for everybody. But just to let you know sort of where we're aiming and where we're pointing. And again, if there's any partners that want to get on board and row in that same direction with us, that's what we're here to do sort of today. So first things first, who is Tuya? So this is a pretty simple slide, and it shows kind of the four pillars of what Tuya does. So first and foremost, Tuya is the largest IoT platform in the world. And again, probably one of the largest companies that nobody's ever heard of. You won't find a name on a box. Products won't be on a shelf. We don't advertise. But we are an integral part of so many people's lives every single day, whether they know it or not. Some of the largest IoT brands and connected products that you find at retail reside in the Tuya platform. But we're sort of the brand behind the brands, right? We're the guy behind the guy. And so what is it that we do? As I mentioned, we're the world's largest IoT platform. And so what does that mean? I'll give you some numbers to kind of give you a sense of the scope and scale of that. So we're a global company. We empower over 5,000 customers across the globe, including 2,700 different brands and 1,100 different categories in over 220 countries. Our platform processes over 120 million voice interactions a day, right? So Alexa, turn on the light, Alexa, open the garage door, and over 85 billion with a B cloud requests on a daily basis around the globe. And we anticipate that number will probably double, if not triple, within the next year or so, just because of everything that's coming online and how the world is becoming this connected place, right? So that's sort of our main focus and what we do, but we do more than that, right? So the second thing is we provide the application for it, right? So if you're going to have a smart product, you need to have a control panel, press buttons and make the light go on and off and turn purple and red and all that stuff. So we provide that application, that control panel, all of those things. We do that in a couple of different ways. If you're a company that doesn't mind, you don't care about branding, right? You just don't want to have a white box application. We will provide you with a free application called Smart Life. You can find it in both stores. And that will operate any Tuya product across the globe. So if you're looking to get into the smart business, all you need to do is download that app, buy some products with a Tuya communication module in it, and congratulations, you're in the smart product business. It's that easy. We are IoT made easy. The third thing we do is we provide the communication module itself, right? So whether it be Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Zigbee, Matter, I don't know how familiar you guys are with Matter, but that's a new communication protocol that was recently released. We are agnostic to that. It's really application specific, but we will provide that communication module as well. The fourth thing that we do, and it's pretty unique to Tuya, and I always find that a lot of the people that when I present it to them say, hey, we didn't know there was somebody that could help us with that, right? Because we're so broad and we're in over 1,100 different categories across the globe, we have an ecosystem of, the number I use is about 10,000, give or take. But we have about 10,000 OEM or contract manufacturers, whatever you want to call them, partners, right, that we partner with to bring all of these different connected products to market. And so we're happy to play matchmaker. Let's say you're a company that makes smart thermostats and you want to get into smart plugs, whatever. And you say, well, I don't know where to go for that, right? Come to us. We will play matchmaker to you and maybe 2, 3, 4 different OEMs. The idea being that you will buy product from them, they will buy modules from us, and all boats rise. And so those are sort of the 4 pillars of what we do. And of course, if anybody's interested in discussing this in more detail and maybe partnering with us going forward, happy to discuss that kind of offline. All right. And I'll mention that my computer has problems with PowerPoints. And so there's going to be some awkward transitions on slides because I'm not transitioning them. So Marty, you can go to the next slide or the next PDF page. No, go up. I like the space stuff. Okay, so this is my analogy slide, right? Every keynote sort of has one. And I'm a huge space nerd, right? Love everything about it. Everything from, the Apollo missions to Neil deGrasse Tyson, like I just eat it up and I love everything. And space lends itself to so many analogies, right? Even just low effort ones, like the one I'm about to deliver. So you look at this photo, right? It says a lot, right? There's a lot you can take away from this. It speaks to the technological success of mankind, right? Conquering that rock that shows up every night around us. The vastness of space, right? How small we are in it, right? And it kind of harkens back to another image that's not here from Carl Sagan that was called the pale blue dot. It's a pretty famous image, and he had a little speech that went along with it. And it's applicable to this photo, right? So you look at this photo, and I'll sort of paraphrase and shorten what he said in the pale blue dot speech, but it's applicable here, that in this one image, right? Everything you see, everything you've ever loved, every person you've ever met, every man, woman, and child who has ever lived, everything that's ever happened in human existence is pictured in this image, right? You've got Buzz and Neil going down. They're in the Eagle. They're going to take one small step, right, down on the Sea of Tranquility. So every single thing that's ever happened in history is in this image, just as it was in the pale blue dot. The only difference being here, there's one thing missing. And that one thing is a man called Michael Collins. Now, being a space nerd, I know what Michael Collins is. I think a lot of people, if you ask them to name the 3 people who were on the Apollo 11 mission, right? First, you'd probably have to remind them Apollo 11 was the first one to land on the moon. And everybody can name Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, right? Those just roll off the tongue. But Michael Collins is not a name that most people know. And I think he's probably the most unheralded individual in history, just based on what he did and what he contributed to. And so whenever I look at this image, I kind of put myself in Michael Collins's shoes and think, this was a guy, he was one of 13 people chosen around the entire planet. He's one of 13 people chosen to be an Apollo astronaut, right? That's as unicorn as it gets. And so I imagine, Michael Collins is going through, he's doing all his training and whatever astronauts do before they go out astronauting, right? He's doing it right next to Buzz and Neil and everybody else. He's the best of the best, right? He's got the right stuff. And so I imagine there was one day, right, where Michael Collins is walking down, his boss, Gene Cernan, calls him in his office and says, Michael, sit down, right? We got a job for you. There's good news and bad news, right? Good news is we're going to put you in this rocket. We're going to send you to the moon. You're going to be so close to the moon, right? I mean, it's going to be right there in the window. Like if you could smell things in space, you'd be able to smell the moon, right? You're going to want to open the window and touch it. And that's the bad news, right? Because what your job is you're going to drive Neil and Buzz to the moon. You're going to drop them off, take a couple laps around the block, right? Maybe get froyo, kill some time, pick them up and bring them back home. That's what we need you to do. And I think most people, that would be a major gut punch, right? I mean, you've spent your entire life to be the best of the best. You're planning on being one of those 13 guys that walks on the moon, and now you're the designated driver, right? You're space Uber for these two guys to go, give their speech and leave their footprints and all that kind of thing. And that, like I said, that would be a major gut punch to most people, but to Michael Collins, he understood that was his role, right? He's not going to be the one small step for man guy, right? There's no Michael Collins Lightyear, right? It's Buzz Lightyear. We all know why. But he stepped up and understood that he is part of this sort of greater collective and how we get to the moon, right? It's not about Michael Collins, not about Neil, not about Buzz, not about anybody else. It's just this collective goal of how do we all row in the same direction and get here. And he accepted his role as that space Uber guy and did it. And most people, like I said, don't know Michael Collins' name. You never see him. Nobody ever talks to him. He's dead now, so you can't talk to him. He died a year ago. But the purpose of sort of that analogy is that, we go to all of these conferences, the Smart Energy Conference in Austin, in California, and all these different places. And the one takeaway that's consistent across all of them, and it's too often to be, it's not a mistake that everybody says. The one thing that we need to do is all be on the same team. We need to have partnerships. We have to stop fighting each other and start rowing in the same direction. And so, Tuya, our position, our role, as we see it, is we are the communications arm, right? That's what we do. We do it better than anybody else. We're unapologetic about it. And we understand that that is our role in this mission. And we're looking for other people who understand their role and can row in the same direction with us. And that's sort of the, teamwork analogy, I guess, but kind of where we need to be as companies is moving in that same direction together. Because as it stands right now, it's nothing but 15 different protocols. Consumers are confused. Nobody knows what a Zigbee is. Nobody knows what a Z-Wave is, nor should they. And the idea that we need to come together and partner up to move that ball forward is what everybody in the industry, not just Tuya, the utilities, the installers, the dealers, that's what they're all telling us they need. And so our role is to be that enabler, right? That facilitator of that, because we're where all the communication happens, right? All the data goes back and forth. It's to your cloud, goes down to your connected products, to your utility meters, things like that. But it all sort of centers around that connectivity portion. And that's our role. That's what we want to be. And we're looking for partners for that. And so that's my little analogy thing. And so the image on the right has nothing to do with space or conversation today. I just thought it was kind of a fun fact that I'd share with you guys because I am a space nerd. So that car you see right there is, I don't know if they do it anymore, but back in the 70s, any astronaut that went into space and came back got a free Corvette, right? How cool is that? Like, isn't that the best work swag anybody's ever gotten? Like, my company gives me t-shirts. These guys got vets. And the Corvette was detailed to match the colors from the lunar module, right? So this is Alan Bean's Corvette. He was the lunar module pilot on Apollo 12, and this is the color scheme that they built for him. And if you can see it on the license plate there, it says LMP XII, and that's to indicate Alan Bean's role as the lunar module pilot on Apollo 12. And again, has nothing to do with this conversation today. It's just kind of a fun fact that I thought you guys would appreciate. So that's my space analogy slide, and we can move on from that. So we get into sort of, okay, who is Tuya and what do we do, right? What is the partnership and what are we going to bring? What is our role for that? And so now this is sort of a look into kind of how we got to where we're at as far as our roadmap goes, and how do we decide which direction everybody's going to row in, right? And so we start with the UN. Now, for all its problems, for whatever you may think of the UN, right, it's kind of the best we've got right now as far as a global voice, right? It's where the world gets together, right? So we start sort of there at the top. And again, we're talking about energy with air fingers quotes, because it's a very broad category, right? It's very different than a normal consumer product that you just put on a shelf in Walmart, right? With that, there's one stakeholder. Somebody goes to Walmart, they buy it, they bring it home. They're the only person that cares about it. But within, again, air fingers quotes energy, there's multiple stakeholders, right? It's not just consumers, it's utilities, it's installers, it's dealers, it's government entities. And we spend a really, really great deal of time speaking with those people to understand, what they see going forward. And so this is kind of an amalgamation of that, right? This is not just Tuya saying, these are the things we need to do. It's everybody else, all the voices we've heard and what we feel we can bring to the table to help bring that. And so you look at sort of the UN goals here, and they're pretty lofty, right? So it's kind of hard to see, but the first one is end poverty, right? Second one is no hunger, right? And these are moonshots, right? Just like Michael Collins was a part of. And so I'm for those, right? I'm certainly for no hunger and ending poverty, but how do you get there, right? You're going to have your role. It's not one company. It's not a handful of companies that are going to tackle this beast, right? It's not going to be felled by one sword. It's too big. Again, it sort of takes a village. And so, in looking at this, the higher level goals, again, not getting down into the specifics yet, are we want to go to market with products and services that are economic, right? Everything has to meet the economics checkbox, right? We're all in business to make money. And as consumers of energy, we all want to save money. So really with any decision, economics is always going to be at the top of that, right? Societal. So can it be done at scale? Is this something that not only helps us, but helps our neighbors in some way, right? And one of the conversations I had at the Smart Energy Conference in Austin was with one of the utilities. I don't recall exactly who it was, but they said, we give people free thermostats and we want the ability to regulate that, right? We want to control the grid and make sure there's no blackouts. And so on average, people get about a $35 savings per month. And for most people, that's not a real incentivizer, right? 35 bucks, what are you gonna do with that? You get a couple bagels once a week, right? But they found that when they told them, look, this is not just your $35. You live in Texas, you live in California, you know what happens with the energy, right? There's rolling blackouts far too often. So if your assistance, right, you can help not only yourself, but you can help the community, right? Everybody's on this grid can avoid a blackout if you just take your $35 a month and let us regulate your thermostat. And that idea of community allowed people to sort of overcome that $35 savings, right? That they felt it was just too big brothery, right? They don't want somebody telling them how hot or cold they should be. But when it came into the context of the society and helping everyone avoid those blackouts, they were much more incentivized to participate in those programs than just the $35 check they got every month. And the last one is environmental, right? Is it having a positive impact on the world around us? Is it helping create a more sustainable future? And sort of what does that footprint look like? And so you can go to the next slide. Sorry, I'm getting a little hoarse here. I'm gonna take it. Okay, I'm back. All right, so breaking it down even further. So what can we do, right? So this chart from the Gartner Group basically balances the business value of an activity versus the feasibility, right? So it just provides some sort of additional guideposts as to where we want to be. So high feasibility, high business value, obviously that's where everyone wants to focus. And so that's sort of the start. So we at Tuya are really focused more in that 3, 4, and 5 area. We're sort of starting to touch on that 7, 8, 9. But this is sort of what's driving our current product roadmap of feasibility versus business value, right? Can we do it, and can it be done at scale? So smart utilities, smart buildings, things like that. This is where we see our role, where we can have the highest impact. Again, just not economically, but also society and environmentally. And we are looking for partners to take this path with us, where maybe you can help assist within that 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9 segment. You can go to the next slide. And so when we talk about things like smart buildings, smart apartments, things like that, we need to understand who the stakeholders are, right? And what are those touch points? Because again, it goes well beyond just a normal consumer product. It is just a huge beast that we all need to tackle. So you talk about energy, the multiple stakeholders and multiple sides of the coin, right? It's not your typical product. So we look at it from a very high level and sort of where we are now, right? We need to not only consider the consumer of that energy, but also the producers, the distributors, the installers, everything. And what Tuya has built is a platform that addresses all of those things, right? So you've got energy supply, energy consumption, and everything in between. And so when you look at the platform that we've put together, it is consumer facing, right? We've got our consumer app, but we've also got a web OS for an apartment manager, right? Who's managing 300 different rooms. We've got an installer app for the guy who has to go in. There's the ability to schedule somebody to come in and clean the carpets or paint the walls, right? When one person moves out, the next person moves in. So it's understanding sort of what all those touch points are and what the role of all those people are. And government plays a role in that as well, right? Regulating utilities. And so we take into account all of those stakeholders because everybody there is going to have a voice, no matter what program or product you put together. None of those players can be ignored. And we've pulled them all into the mix. So we're kind of parallel pathing our roadmap into smart energy. We're offering both software and hardware. I think you can go to the next slide. So we're basically a software company at heart. That is our role. That is what we do best. And that's what we're going to continue to do, is do that software, that cloud portion of things. We are offering hardware as well, but it's really just a means to an end. It's our partners on the manufacturing side. We don't build anything. We don't make any final products. But it's us partnering with what we see are the best of the best on the OEM side and bringing those to you guys, the best of the best on the supplier side, the utility side, and installer side. So we offer both, but at heart, we're a software and cloud company. And so back to that Michael Collins analogy, right? That's our role. That's what we do best. And we're not going to get outside of that wheelhouse, right? So we're going to be that communications, that connections partner, and that's going to be what we handle. And we're going to rely on all of you guys to do the other parts of it. Let's see. You can jump to the next one. Sorry, I've got some notes here. I'm just kind of scrolling through, make sure I'm in the right spot. So when you look at our roadmap, so now we've sort of dwindled it down a little bit more, right? So what are we going to be participating in? There's a few different sections here, right? So we look at electricity, water, and gas, like those are the big three. And what can we affect in that through IoT and through smart connectivity? Well, it starts with the device ecosystem, right? You have to have a thermostat. You have to have a smart plug. You have to have those items within those consumers' homes. Then it's that energy saving dashboard, right? So what is the purpose of having this thermostat? What is it doing for me? What value does it provide to me, the consumer? And then also on the energy management side, what is it providing to me as a utility for me trying to manage that load on the grid? right? And then at the end of the day, is it tracking your home energy, saving on your energy bills, and reducing your carbon footprint, right? Those are the three sort of main takeaways that we're going to do for each of our different products across those big three: electricity, water, and gas. Oh, did somebody have a question? Heard a noise. All right, guess not. So this is just sort of breaking it down a little further, right? So all of these products and services that we're going forward with hit those initial three goals, right? The sustainability, the economic, and the environmental side of things. So we're staying within that sort of wheelhouse, within that focus as we go to market. You can go to the next one. And so it gets a little repetitive in these slides because we're just sort of breaking it down a little bit further and further, right? But with this, again, you can see all the stakeholders that have to be addressed. And that can't be done by, there's no one company, there's no Apple, there's no Microsoft or Amazon that's going to tackle this by themselves. It's just not going to happen, right? It's the collective, it's all of us, again, rowing in that same direction. And this is sort of the larger architecture that we see going forward. And again, it's an eye chart, and we can probably make this available to everybody. But this is the architecture and the management platform that we see as having the greatest impact going forward. And it will grow, it will expand, it will get bigger. But right now, this is where we think that we can focus. So go ahead. A lot of these slides are kind of repetitive. So apologize for that. But, same thing here. So we break it down more, the device matrix. So we've got the controllers. You have to have energy storage, right? You have to have energy charging. EVs are becoming a huge thing nowadays. Energy consumption, statistics, management, that sort of thing, power distribution, energy metering. These are all the areas that, again, we feel that we can affect, and we're looking for partners to jump on and help us in these sort of areas here. You can go to the next one. Again, these are sort of repetitive. So these are the areas that we're focused on. So home energy, right? The consumer within the home. Industrial energy, so cold storage, things like that, warehousing. Building energy, so apartments, hospitals. That building manager's got 200 or 300 apartments that he's overlooking. And then the larger sort of outdoor, we call it park energy scenarios, but that could be smart lighting, smart metering, you know, anything that's really outside of the home and beyond that, beyond the meter type of thing. You can jump to the next one. And so this is just a sort of a case study. This is a customer of ours in Europe called iHelios. They're based in Britain, because Europe is really sort of the tip of the spear, right? They're really energy conscious and focused. So they're kind of leading the way, right? They're sort of setting the standard for what we're doing. And so we partnered with a company called iHelios, and their goal was to get people's electricity bills down, right? So how they did that? They partnered with Tuya. We got them a number of different hardware pieces. Obviously, we got the software piece, the cloud piece on it, and sort of worked with them to message out to their customers, hey, you know, we're going to give you this thermostat or this smart plug, and here's what it's going to do, and here's how you're going to measure it, and here's how you're going to manage it. And they were really successful in doing that. And so while their customers are saving 30% more on their electricity bills, their customer growth went up 40%. So if you give your customers more of your money back, right, through these energy savings, they're going to give more of it back to you for your different services and products, right? It's pretty basic stuff. But this is just a sort of a basic case study in how we've partnered with some of our other partners in bringing this to reality. And again, it's something we hope to do with you guys. And we can talk offline afterwards if anybody's interested in that. Jump to the next one. I told you guys I'd make this quick. So at Tuya, we offer the PaaS and SaaS, that's software as a service, platform as a service, and also our Cube solution, which is a private cloud solution. But our focus, like obviously energy sustainability, improve efficiency and productivity, and cost savings. And we do that through the communications, right? We are, again, that central hub where all that communications will kind of revolve around. And we're looking for those partners to take care of all those kind of other revolving interests around that. We want to play that role of enabler, right? We want to be that central sort of station where everything kind of revolves around, knowing that that's what we do best, and we want everyone else for what they do best to sort of revolve around that. And that's kind of the focus and the goal that we have. And again, it's not just us, it's all of our industry partners and everybody who's talking to and all the conferences we go to. This seems to be the best path forward, is as a team, and again, everybody rowing in that same direction.
Yeah, and Andy, I think we're coming up close on time. I just want to make sure there's enough time to have the Q&A.
I think that's it. I think maybe one more slide.
Okay, perfect.
And this is just for you guys to get your phone out and scan that. If you do want to be a global partner with Tuya, reach out to us, marketing at Tuya, scan the QR code or click the link. And again, if anybody would like to have a discussion about this offline, we're certainly happy to do that. And that's it for me.
Yeah, thanks, Andy, for the great presentation. I know that we have judging by the survey of those that are registered, we have the majority of people here are either executives or very senior in their company. So I think there'd be a lot of positive questions and interest. If you wanted to if you have a question, you could just take yourself off mute and state your name and your organization, or you can type in your questions in the chat box as well. I think there's Eric and Mona from Tuya that are helping to assist with some of the questions as well.
David Katz, do you hear me, Greg, or the presenter?
I hear you. Hey, David.
Okay, great. I just came into my house, so I watched you while driving. So because I've been doing sustainability since COP1, are you able to put a price tag on the carbon? That is critical to what we're looking for, as to making a price on carbon to facilitate the ESG reporting.
Well, it's a good question. And I'll tell you right off the bat, no, I don't have an answer for that. I cannot put a price to it. That's a pretty elusive type of number, right? But
I wasn't. We are doing it, including with First Carbon Solutions in California. It's basically looking at what the grid is supplying at that time, because the big question is, if you have a Tesla but you're charging it with coal power, it's not clean. Anyway, I'll reach out. Thank you very much for the great presentation.
Yeah, well, it's funny that because you asked that question, because I asked that question as well when I was at the Smart Energy Summit of somebody who knows much better than I do. And what their answer to me is right now it's not offset, right? It's still, people still have to dig mines and get the cobalt and get the coal and get everything to put into a Tesla battery, right? And it's not offset to date. But in their visualization, within 3 to 5 years, all of that offsetting will begin to happen, but it's just not happening yet.
I agree. Thank you.
Sure.
I will just add, Greg and I were at AHR Expo, which you might explain later. Every third sign basically in the HVAC business said sustainable or healthy or smart. So I think as you pointed out, it's a challenge and it's a global effort.
It is. And I don't know how familiar you guys are with Matter. You probably are, since most of you seem like in the connected home space, but right, Matter is one of those. So people don't know, Matter is a new connectivity standard that's just been released. And the idea being it's going to be the connectivity standard, right? Because today you have Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Zigbee, Z-Wave, everything else. This is meant to be the translator for all of that, so that your Apple HomeKit can work with your Alexa, can work with your Honeywell thermostat. And it's not the first time it's been tried, right? Everybody who's made a communications protocol envisioned it being the protocol, right? Envisioned it being the VHS to everybody else's beta. And right now it's just a bunch of betas running around, right? And so what the difference is with Matter, again, is that partnership, is that everybody rowing in that same direction. So what makes Matter different, why I think that will succeed, is because you've got Tuya, you've got Amazon, you've got Microsoft, Apple, Google, all of these major players are all saying, yes, we need this. This is good for us. This is good for consumers. This is just good for the world, right? It's finally everybody's going in the same direction and going, yeah, we need to get on the same page here, because right now we're just all battling for little tiny slices of the pie, right? Let's just go get the whole pie together. And so I think that that's really sort of an effort that matches up with the idea that we need to have those partnerships, and again, everybody going in the same direction.
I think there was a question, or at least a hand raised from Eric Harper. Is it you still have that question, or is that was that answered in that response?
Yeah, it was partially answered, but since you called on me, I'll ask it anyway. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate the time today and the presentation. This was interesting. Yeah, Matter was something that I was going to ask about, and you went there. But curious your perspective on. By the way, I'm with Snap One. We're the parent company of a brand called Control4, which is a lot of smart interconnected devices, processors, cloud enablement apps, and customer apps. Yeah. So, and we have drivers that work with many of your products today. As you think about Matter as a language, or as a common way for devices to talk to each other, and I think as a Tuya consumer of sort of the overlay on top of that to drive the automations and other things outside of just device to device communication. Is that where you talked about how it's kind of I guess, to put words in your mouth, the rising tide that will float all boats by having more products out there? But it feels like Smart Life, and Tuya specifically, is sort of in an interesting position where you can kind of be the connective tissue, if you will, at the sort of automation layer. Is that a fair way to put it? Just curious to get more perspective from you on that.
Yeah, so we're 100% behind Matter, right? So partnerships and things, that's what makes our business go. Like if we don't have people to work with, we die, we go away. So Matter is done by the Connectivity Standards Alliance, which used to be Zigbee. And we sit on the board of CSA. We sit on a number of steering committees there. So we're not just a part of Matter, we're sort of driving where that goes in the future. And we see that as being a very high level portion of what we do. And eventually, hopefully, everything will be Matter enabled. And nobody will have to utter the word Zigbee or Z-Wave or anything ever again, right? Because it just confuses the hell out of everybody.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions for Andy? I guess we're definitely familiar with Matter. A lot of people on the call are as well, and because a couple of our board members here at CABA are also board members there at CSA and help develop the Matter standard. I guess I have one question, is that I know that what are your major objections for some of those companies or some of those individuals that really are more of a lone wolf sort of philosophy, as opposed to helping row in the boat? And what would their objections be, and how do you quell those? Because we run into some of those companies and individuals as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of walled gardens out there, right? And the walls are just kind of getting higher, right? As everybody goes down their individual path, I guess. But you can see it even just at retail, right? Which is a great indicator of where IoT and where connected products are going. It's like everybody's been waiting for that hockey stick curve, right? With just this tremendous growth to explode into IoT. And it should happen. It's going to happen. It's just when. And I think one of the main drivers as to why that's not happening, you're asking just too much of people, right? You want someone to understand what Zigbee is and does that work with this other product that I bought at Walmart? Is it going to work with the one I got at Target? And you're asking way too much of people, and they just throw up their hands and go, forget it. I'm just going to go home and use what I got. I'm not going to deal with this. And that's becoming more and more evident. And I think that's why all of these people have signed on to Matter to say it's enough. We can't all have these different protocols going around because it's just not working out. We're hurting everybody by doing this. And I think those companies that if they don't want to get on board with Matter, and there are a lot of them, right? There are a lot of people, like there's a company called Lexi that I know just came out with a multi-protocol gateway. It's got everything in it. Every radio you could think of is in that gateway. That company does not want Matter to survive, right? Because that goes against everything that they've put together, and all the money they've put into building this gateway and this network relies on the chaos, right? Because they want to be the ones that control that chaos and bring it all in and kind of make it not chaotic. So those companies, I don't think are going to survive. Companies like a Tuya that, understand the importance of everybody getting on the same page, they're the ones that are going to be around in the next 10, 20, 50 years. That's my take.
Well, thanks a lot, Andy, for answering the questions and give me a good presentation. Are we able to share these slides out with the group after the call?
Yeah, sure, of course.
Oh, okay. And then we'll also share your contact info. So if anybody wants to reach out to Andy directly, or we'll include that in the minutes if you wanted to reach out.
Yeah, absolutely. Please do that. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Sure. Thanks, everybody.
Back to you, Ken.
Thank you very much, Greg, and appreciate the insightful presentation, and learned a lot about Tuya. So, Andy, thanks so much. So we'd like to have presentations of the caliber you've heard at our future meetings. So now's your opportunity to suggest any new webinar topics and any additional new business you'd like to discuss now. I wanted to point out that the Connected Home Council has developed original white papers. We don't have any to discuss right now because we've had a little bit of a lull in the production of white papers, but we're still open to anyone who has a topic they'd like to pursue, maybe an outline of a paper, and we can provide you a committee to help you flesh it out and to review your writings. So please bring your ideas forward for white papers. I'll also remind everyone that in my role as chair of the CABA Publications Review Committee, that CABA has a library of papers produced by people outside of CABA, that the papers we have reviewed, vetted very rigorously to see that they're relevant for CABA members. We accept papers on a wide variety of topics, as long as they have some connection to the areas related to the either homes or buildings. And if the papers are not overtly commercial, meaning they're just not an ad for one company. But within those boundaries, we've literally reviewed thousands of papers, and they're available in the library. So if anyone's interested, please peruse the library. The more recent papers are limited to CABA members. Our older papers are available to the world. And by the way, if you'd like to review a paper or found a paper that you think should be in the CABA library, please let Marta know. And as a little reward, you'll get $25 plus 25 CABA bucks or credits for CABA purchases. So any new business by anyone? If not, Greg, you'll take up the announcements.
Yeah, can you go to the next slide? Yeah. So I'm just the announcements are really just talking about some past events and some future events in the connected home space. Some of the ones that you've missed are the CES that happened in January, and also the Connection Summit that happened at the same location there in Vegas. And then there was an IoT Evolution conference and expo in Florida and in just recently as well. Then I go to the next slide. Here's some of the upcoming events. There's the Smart Spaces. There's a Parks Associate, another Parks Associate events in Dallas. Another one in Texas as well for one of the Connected Home Summit, and CEDIA this year is going to be in Denver, September 7th and 9th. That's probably one of the major ones that there may be some interest on from this call. And then there's the Shanghai Smart Home Technology event that we've attended in the past. So I don't know if there will be any of those on the call that's attending that one, but it's available. So there's a few others that are coming up as well, and they're all posted on our website and under the upcoming events section and the endorsed events section. So pass it back off to you, Ken.
Thank you, Greg. We're just about reaching the end of the meeting now. Last opportunity for anyone who would like to bring up an issue that was not discussed. Otherwise, I want to remind everyone our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, May 16th. And with that, I believe we've reached the end of the meeting. So I will declare the meeting adjourned for this quarter. Thank you.